So why is all of this history important? Because it shows us what China fears and how Tiananmen Square changed China's approach. Tiananmen Square is China's nightmare. The Soviet Union's fall is China's nightmare. Both the things happened in 1989. You see, in the 1950s, the Chinese used to say this: the USSR of today is the China of tomorrow. But then the USSR collapsed. And so the Chinese started saying, the USSR of yesterday absolutely must not become the China of tomorrow. Since 1989, the Communist Party of China has been trying to avoid a similar fate. The CCP was determined to survive, is determined to survive. In 1989, they knew they had to change. But change did not mean political reform. It meant more oppression. It meant boosting the economy. China wanted to generate money to buy the silence of its people. Deng Xiaoping's vision of a socialist market economy became the Communist Party's official policy. By October 1992, the 14th Party Congress, China was looking to increase foreign trade and investment. Deng Xiaoping went for his second tour of southern China. He pressed for faster economic reforms. Voices within the party that opposed the market liberalization were silenced. In 1997, when Hong Kong was handed over to China, Beijing played safe. It pressed for the policy of one nation with diversity. You see, what the party grew to value the most in China was stability. And stability was achieved by suppressing political rights and human rights. After the Tiananmen Square massacre, Deng Xiaoping had reportedly said that 200 lives are a small price to pay for 20 years of stability. Clearly, when Deng said reform, he never meant democracy. He meant a new brand of socialism, the same one that President Xi Jinping is selling to the world right now. But history looms on the present. Today's China is dogged by two fears, as I've been saying: the ghost of Tiananmen Square and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Two things that Xi Jinping wants to avoid at all costs. In 2013, just after taking office, he gave a speech, and let me quote parts of it. Why did the Soviet Union collapse? One of the main reasons was the ideological confusion. Finally, the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, which was a great party, was dissolved like a flock of sparrows. The Soviet Union, which was a great country, collapsed. This is the lesson we must learn from the errors of the past. And this lesson is at the center of Xi Jinping's politics. He blames the collapse of the Soviet Union on three things. One, its leader, Mikhail Gorbachev. Two, its system, corrupt socialism. And three, its enemy, the West. Let's talk about the leader first, Mikhail Gorbachev. He brought reform to his country. Xi Jinping sees him as someone who lost an empire. He doesn't want to meet the same fate, and he doesn't want to introduce political reform for that reason. Second, the system. The Chinese Academy of Social Sciences released a book in the year 2011. It said that the root cause of the collapse of the Soviet Union was corruption. Guess how Xi Jinping read it? Fight corruption, or at least show that you're the enemy of the corrupt. And he's been at it since taking office with his anti-graft purge that takes high-profile targets but leaves out the president's friends and family. Xi Jinping is creating the mirage of a corruption-free society. Factor number three, the enemy, the West. China blames America's policies and America's supposed interference for the Soviet Union's fall. Blame the West has been China's mantra for quite some time now. It is doing the same in Hong Kong. It is blaming foreign forces for the protest. Despite all his learnings, Xi Jinping's fears seem to be coming true. Hong Kong is turning into another Tiananmen Square. Beijing has always been scared of political mobilization, but it's happening. In 2019, thousands hit the streets of Hong Kong. The ghost of Tiananmen Square is catching up. There was once again demand for democracy. There is demand for democracy. There are protests, similar in size and intensity and larger in terms of media coverage. Just like 1989, people from all walks of life joining the protesters in Hong Kong. Last year, China mobilized troops outside Hong Kong. This year, on the anniversary of Tiananmen Square, China has slapped a security law on Hong Kong. 31 years have passed. In 1989, China was globally isolated for killing unarmed protesters. In 2020, history is repeating itself. China's virus is killing its diplomatic ties. It is more internationally isolated now than ever. According to a report, China's Ministry of State Security presented a dossier to the leadership. And you have to hear what it said. Today, anti-China sentiment is at the highest since the 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. This was the conclusion of the paper, and this is the writing on the wall. China's worst fears are coming true.